The rain pelted the glass windows of the high-rise building, a perfect metaphor for the storm brewing within Nia's mind. She had spent the last 6 years clawing her way up the corporate ladder, defying every expectation set for her as a woman in a male-dominated industry. Yet here she was, sitting in her boss's office, her stomach churning as she listened to his proposition. "Nia, you know you're talented. You have what it takes to be a leader," Mr. Johnson said, his fingers drumming on the mahogany desk. "But talent alone won't get you to the top. You have to be cooperative." Nia clenched her fists beneath the table. She knew exactly what cooperative meant. It was the same demand she had faced time and again, suggestions wrapped in silk but laced with venom. She had fought her way to this position on merit alone, yet the price for true power always seemed to come with a condition that had nothing to do with her skills. "I appreciate the opportunity, sir," Nia said, her voice calm but firm. "But I believe my work speaks for itself." Mr. Johnson sighed, leaning back in his chair. "Think about it, Nia. The industry is tough. Women like you don't get many chances. Don't waste this one." Nia walked out of the office, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floors. Her colleagues, mostly men, gave her knowing looks. They had heard the rumors, some had warned her, but Nia had believed she could win on her own terms. The next few weeks were brutal. The projects she had been leading were reassigned. Her ideas, once praised, were now met with dismissive nods. The whispers in the hallway grew louder. The isolation was deliberate. Still, she pressed on, working harder, refusing to quit, until the night of the gala. It was an event for industry elites. Nia arrived in an elegant black dress, her confidence unshaken despite the turbulence at work. She knew she had to network to prove her worth outside the confines of the office. But as she made her rounds, she realized the invitations extended to her were not for business meetings. They were for private dinners, secluded retreats, and weekend getaways. The message was clear. If she wanted to advance, she had to play their game. And then she met Charles. Charles was unlike the other men in the room. He was young, strikingly handsome, and ridiculously wealthy. His presence commanded attention, and the way he looked at Nia made her feel different, like she was more than just a pawn in a corporate game. He was a self-made billionaire, and unlike Mr. Johnson, he didn't look at her with condescension. Instead, he looked at her with admiration, desire, and something dangerously tempting: opportunity. "Nia, I've been watching you all night," Charles said smoothly, handing her a glass of wine. "You're different. You don't belong in that stiff corporate world where men like Johnson get to decide your worth." Nia took a slow sip, her mind clouded with exhaustion, frustration, and the allure of something easier. For years, she had done everything the right way: hard work, perseverance, maintaining her integrity. And where had that gotten her? Nowhere. She had fought, and still the system refused to yield. "I'm tired, Charles," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've done everything the right way, but it's like I'm running on a treadmill. I never get ahead." Charles leaned in, his voice softer now. "Then stop fighting. You're exceptional, Nia. You deserve to be at the top, and I can help you get there. A weekend away, just us. No pressure, just conversation, connections, and relaxation. I promise you'll come back with opportunities that'll change your life." For the first time in a long time, Nia considered it. What was the harm? She wasn't being forced into anything. Charles wasn't asking her to compromise herself, at least not explicitly. And wasn't this how the game was played? So many others had taken this route, skipping the years of struggle by aligning with the right person at the right time. Her mind raced. The weight of exhaustion pressed down on her. Maybe it was time to quit the fight and take the easier path. She inhaled sharply, about to nod, when a familiar voice cut through the air. "Nia, I see you've made a new friend." She turned and froze. Mr. Johnson stood a few feet away, a drink in his hand, his sharp beard impeccably groomed. His smirk was subtle, his presence suffocating. "Charles," Mr. Johnson greeted with a nod, his voice cool. "You're making quite the impression on my former protégé." Nia felt her stomach tighten. She'd spent years avoiding this exact scenario, being trapped between two powerful men who saw her as a commodity rather than a person. Charles smirked, unfazed. "I'm offering her an opportunity, something that doesn't involve bending to outdated rules." Mr. Johnson chuckled, sipping his drink. "And you think your offer is different? A weekend away? Special meetings? You dress it up nicely, Charles, but it's the same playbook." Nia's pulse quickened. She suddenly saw it clearly. Neither of them saw her for who she was. One expected submission, the other expected strategic compliance. The message was clear. If she truly wanted to advance by all means, she had to play their game. Then at this point she realized the saying, "If you can't fight them, join them," isn't an empty statement. But then something inside her snapped. With a deep breath, she set her drink down. "I appreciate the offer, gentlemen, but I don't need either of you to define my success." Nia turned on her heels and walked away, feeling more powerful than ever. Charles raised an eyebrow, amused, while Mr. Johnson's smirk faltered slightly. The next morning, Nia stood before the mirror in her tiny apartment. Dark circles rimmed her eyes. The weight of her choices pressed down on her shoulders. For years, she had believed perseverance was the answer, that if she worked hard enough, she could break through the barriers set before her. But now she saw the truth. She was fighting a battle that was rigged from the start. The system wasn't built to reward her talent, it was built to exploit it. And if she continued, she would lose more than just her career. She would lose herself. With a deep breath, she picked up her phone and dialed a number she had been avoiding. "Nia!" The voice on the other end was warm, familiar. "I wasn't expecting your call." "Hi, Mom," Nia whispered. "I think I'm ready to come home." It wasn't the homecoming she had envisioned years ago when she had left her small town, full of dreams. But as she walked through the doors of the family bakery, greeted by the scent of freshly baked bread and the sound of laughter, she felt something she hadn't in years: peace. Her mother embraced her tightly. "I always knew you'd find your way." "I didn't fail, did I?" Nia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mother pulled back, looking her in the eye. "No, my darling. You just realized that success isn't about winning in their world. It's about creating your own." Months passed, and Nia built something new. A community space for women in business, a network where talent was nurtured, not exploited. She wasn't on the cover of Forbes, nor was she leading a multinational company. But for the first time in years, she was happy. Nia's journey teaches a valuable lesson. Success isn't always about persistence alone. It's about discernment, knowing when to walk away from things that compromise your integrity. Society often sets traps disguised as opportunities, and the real challenge is knowing which doors to close so you can build your own. Nia chose to forge her own path instead of taking a shortcut that would have cost her more than she was willing to give. Her patience and determination paid off, proving that quitting the wrong path isn't failure, it's wisdom. Sometimes, quitting is the most powerful decision you can make. It means refusing to settle, refusing to be controlled, and refusing to betray yourself. Because sometimes quitting isn't failure, sometimes it's survival. Stay safe. Cheers.